career switch.
We are just gonna wait a bit and say 12:35. So everyone can connect and then we can explain. Well, if you have any question right now, feel free to ask. This will be about, let's say, day to day of Project Tech Lead, data scientist. We're gonna talk about three projects that I have done recently, so you can see what more or less they are. And then just like open questions, so you can ask anything that you need. But well, I'm gonna take the camera off just for a couple of minutes. I'll be back. Oh, I think it's already 12:34, so I'm gonna start. Um, just with a small introduction about myself. Um, um, so my major it was in civil engineer. I did then an MBA and then I changed to the data side of things. I work as a data analyst for 2 years, and then I went with WeCloud Data to study a bootcamp, and then I got hired with Beam Data as a project tech lead. So I've been working in data for a while, 3 to 4 years now. And what I want you to explain is the importance of having real client projects on your CV today, so you can, because that is important when you are doing the all the applications to get a job and all of that. Having real projects can help you a lot in at least not getting filtered for in the first round, right? So I'm gonna talk about 3 projects and I'll show you exactly what are those projects, which are part of what other students have worked with me in the past 3 to 6 months. And then I'm gonna open to any questions. So, all right, let's start. So the first project that I worked just a couple of months ago, it was a time series forecasting, and we were trying to do dynamic pricing on uh, taking into consideration the amount, right? So these are bikes, like bicycles that you can rent and move around the city, right? And what the client wanted to do was they wanted to use dynamic pricing, similar to what you found in Uber, for example, right? And uh, And there's a couple of things that we need to check that we'll talk about. And I can share you exactly the data for what we do for the client for the NDA, but I can show you something, an example of what you can use. And this is Austin data. And Austin data is the same. You have bikes, and you can see here the center of the city, which has more bikes, and you can see how the trips are between areas of the city, right? So this is just an EDA about the data itself and how the bikes are moving. And here you have the data itself. It starts from 2018 to 2022, and you can see the number of trips. You can see some seasonality on it, which is in the summer, right? And you can also see the COVID uh, the COVID effect on it, and then it again starts again, right? 2021. You can also see that it hasn't really recovered, right? And again, more EDA, how where is the more like the most uses. And here, for example, we have March, which is interesting, right? Why March, not in the summer? Things like that are important always when you're working on a project. And when you're doing this, it's important to try, because I feel like when you don't have a real client project, you don't merge the business needs with the data science part of it, right? So, for example, if you take a data set on Kaggle, you're just like trying to do what everyone is doing, trying to maybe improve the score, trying to get feature creations. And don't get me wrong, everything, all of that is great. That's your hard skills, and you're improving on that, but without really thinking about the business case of things, you are not going to get a good experience, or you're not going to go after the interviews if you cannot merge the business side of things with the data science of things, right? So in this case, the most important stuff was the price elasticity. So we need to do some EDA with the client and to decide, to calculate the elasticity of the demand there, like in meaning if price went up, how much will affect the demand of the bike, right? Because if it's too sensible, like for example, pretend that you're going to go for a bike ride, right? And you want to do it on a Friday afternoon, and everyone is using a bicycle. And then you see on your app that now instead of $5 is $20. You probably won't take the bike. You probably are going to move with an Uber or with a public transport, something like that, right? So even if your scores were perfect, right, like you are predicting demand perfectly, but you don't take this into consideration, and if price goes, 20% up, if the demand goes 20% up, you increase the price double, then you are not taking into consideration the business case, right? And it's not gonna really work for the client, because the client, what it wants is maximize revenue, right? So that's always take into consideration the business case of stuff, right? If you don't take that, it's not really going to work. So in this case, we went to the client, we checked this, we make sure that we weren't, increasing price like crazy. We took a look at the substitutions of taking a bike ride, and we make sure that the price wasn't increasing too much. So that was super important. And that's what I wanted to explain to you today. Like, this is just easy calculation to do. Is not like machine learning, right? It's just an easy calculation to do, something that you need to keep in mind when you are working on real client project. And at the end, here's just an example of all the models that we did and some of the features that we saw. You can see, for example, the sun started was the most important thing, but we also have like humidity, temperature, how it feels like, the wind speed. All of these takes some importance on the machine learning part, right? And this all was explained to the client, which is also important. And when you are talking with clients who are not that technical, you need to explain this, right? Like, you need to explain them, oh, okay, what what those 0.006 means, right? And what are these models, and what is the root mean square, right? So all of the is important to explain them, but I think more important to take into consideration the business case. Now I have another one. This one is also important for you to understand when you are working with a real client project. Let me see, no. That the data doesn't come as clean as you are expecting, right? And I think also feel that in academic situations, the data that you normally work with is super clean, or even if there is some case, it's like easy to clean, or there is like already steps that someone did that you just need to follow, right? So it is when you are working with a real client project, the data that you have doesn't really show a lot, right? And you need to try to find the features of the columns that you need in order to do the machine learning model. In this case, we were getting the information from an API. We were getting from TikTok. This was a company that was trying to improve click-through rate of their ads from TikTok. So we're doing analysis on it, and we will then do a machine learning of the campaigns that we're running with several features. Not all of this. We first have spent impression-rich clicks campaign names, so we have more like duration of video, the click-through rate that they have, things like that. But that's exactly what you need to do when you're working on a real client project. You need to go and read the API documentation, see what is the features that you can get, and try to get the ones that you need to do the machine learning model, right? But again, you need to think about the business case, right? Because if you're not thinking, okay, maybe it's not just about the click-through rate, right? Maybe it's just improving their ad spending, right? Like maybe TikTok is not something that they should be doing, right? Maybe the target is not there. Maybe you should try to do. That's all the questions that you need to do then when you are working with a client, right? Like, okay, what is your target? Does this make sense? Like also this context and ideas that you could have outside just the data itself, super important to set the objective right. So yeah, this part is important. I was want to show you this is another project that we work with other students, and we were trying to get all the data in and always checking with the client that this is what they wanted to do, right? Another important part of the real client project is that you need to do visualization. You really need to be good and data story or storytelling with data. That's what you need to show, right? You need to show like to the client what the data itself is telling you, and then when you have the model, what is the model doing? So storytelling is super important, and not just when you are on the job, also in the interviews. I will share with you some experience at the end. But storytelling is super important. In this case, we were doing this. I'm sorry that it's in Spanish, but the client was from Mexico. But it's just impressions, expense, how much they are spending, and the channels, right? And we try to make everything on a dashboard so they can look and change stuff, right? And understand what their own data is telling them. And here was the whole thing. Let's say the data architecture that we work with. The important here that I want to tell you, which you will see on the next one too, is the end-to-end. If you can, let's say, expand your knowledge from data science to end-to-end, that's super important. If you can read data from APIs, you can read data from databases or from maybe web scraping, and you can get all the data that you need for the model that you're trying to do. That's super valuable. I think that's something that a lot of people don't really tell you on the academic side of stuff. Like you are super involved on the machine learning, and you are not thinking about, okay, how can we get the data? How can I get the data cleaned and all of that? And how can I put that on a database? Well, how can I put in the model and then on the database, right? Because you have, so I want to spend just a bit, you have the API, right? we put just this, like it's not was something super complex, just reading from the API, this. We were reading this, which is just a call, right? It's just a request. And we were putting everything on a database and putting those on S3 buckets, and then we'll work with the model. And the prediction, we put the model here and the prediction were back on the database. So everything is there and it's easily accessible. Let's say like for the model deployment and all of that, I think that's a bit more than that, just data science. It's more machine learning engineer. I don't think that's super necessary for you to find a job, but if you can, that's also important. Just a little bit about the skills that you need for this project. It was HTTP requests, API documentation, Python, Postgres, S3, RDS, and Metabase for visualizations. That's what we use in this project. And also, what normally happens is that maybe the students don't know what is Metabase, right? But Metabase is just a visualization tool. If you have experience with Tableau, Power BI, you can use Metabase. So also that being flexible of your tools is important, but don't worry, you don't need to know everything, right? It just depends on each project. The last one I want to talk about to talk with you is this one, is web scraping. So because again, it's the same idea, right? How you can do end-to-end stuff. In particular, it was okay if we don't have an API, if we don't have a database, but we want to get information. This in particular was retail data. So it's pricing about products, right? So we were scraping different websites to get all the prices, and we are putting that on an S3 bucket with CSV files. That's it, right? But with all of this data, then with the price predictions, with historical data of the things that we were scraping, right? But for example, for this one in particular, it took us around 6 months to just get the data that we needed, because we were trying to, we needed 6 months of price data to do the predicted model, right? So sometimes at the beginning of some projects, it's just getting the data. And after that, then we can do the machine learning and try to do something, right? And yeah, and that's it. In this case, we just scraping, getting the data, doing the machine learning, and again, putting everything on a database so they could be easily accessible. That's it. I don't think that's necessary. It's just like how we deploy it to the client. And this is the whole thing. Just that after putting everything here, we're creating an API so they could see it. But this is more a machine learning engineer. But the data science part is on here. And some skills that you need for this was because we need to scrape, right? And again, here's the importance of getting your own data. We use something like Scrapy or Beautiful Soup to scrape. And for the data pipeline, if you want to go deep into that, you can learn Airflow. And the database is Postgres. And we did all the scrapes were happening every day on AWS. And I think that's it, guys, for the 3 projects I wanted to share with you. Right now, what I wanted to ask you more is like, what you have any questions about the project itself, about day-to-day as a project tech lead, data scientist? Any questions in general? If not, I can just give you general recommendations. Or what do you have in mind? Don't be shy. Any questions you might have? Let me go to go slower on some of the projects, go more deep into the data science. Recommendations on CVs, curriculums. Okay, maybe I can tell you exactly about the CVs. So the curriculum part, that's a bit of hard to tell you. What projects are good to present in interviews? Projects like that's why real client projects are important. So you can have a project like that, that would be great. Even, for example, when I started as a data analyst, I work with a company that didn't pay me a lot, but I was able to. I was more like uh, I wasn't working with them officially, right? It was more like an opportunity that they gave me, and I worked with them for 2 months, and then I put that on the CV, and that gave me a lot of more interviews. So you have something that can be more original. That's important. Sure. Um, so let me finish the interview. So if you have something original, that's more important, because if you have something that is like, oh, I did, a regression on data from Kaggle or something like that's okay. It shows that you have the skills. But it's always like, okay, did you like did you solve the problem, or did you just follow in a guide, right? And what the hiring manager wants to see is that if you have the skills for a new problem to solve it, right? That's the main thing. So if you have something original, it's great. If you don't have anything original, what I will say is keep variety of your personal projects. Like, don't do just traditional machine learning, right? Go to deep learning, go to unsupervised and supervised. Try to show variety. Maybe just do one from data analysis with just a visualization, right? With Tableau, Power BI. If you don't have anything super original, try to do variety and try to have at least four or five projects. And I would say don't put everything in GitHub. Like, GitHub is important. Having a portfolio in GitHub is also important because this shows that you can use GitHub, and GitHub is super important when you're working with a team. But don't. But if you can do a website or maybe Notion or something, when you can write the stuff, like the format is better and you can show what you have learned and what are the conclusion. And again, always go to the business case, right? So if you're doing, for example, um, the when they don't pay in time, right? The delinquent rates. Let's say that you have a data set with delinquent rates and you want to predict who is going to be delinquent. Okay, talk about that and talk why it's important, why it will affect the business, right? All of that. So it's always important to show the business case. I'm gonna go to the next question with Betty. Is there a big difference between Postgres and SQL? Not really. Postgres has more admin stuff, like users, schema can be separated more easily. What more? I don't know about performance. From my experience, it feels like performance is better, but maybe just that the easy to install that we are using. Also, like, the queries are super similar. So if you know MySQL, it's gonna be easy, like, to change. Data lake, yes. Data lake is like all your data, but it's not that organized, right? A data lake can be many things, but for example, an S3 bucket is a data lake. And for example, data warehouse is where everything is more organized, right? And you can try to do some data analysis from there. So one step that we were doing. So in the S3, you have all the raw files from the scraping, but we have them identified with a name and with a date on the S3, and everything is dropped there, right? But if you want to do something with that, like, it's not possible, right? You need to put everything in, concatenate them, put in a database, something like that, right? So the data lake is where you drop everything. But this a data lake, to be useful, it needs to have some kind of patterns on your naming convention or something, so you can later convert that to a data warehouse or use it in some way. It's just a way to put data, to save data, in short. Is it better to choose a topic I have knowledge on, but not popular, or a popular topic that I'm not that? I'm checking some questions. I'll say it's a balance. If you go super deep, for example, I saw a student that was doing an analysis on movies, and he got IMDb, and he did like analysis on IMDb. But that shows like he could scrape, that showed that he could do the data analysis visualization stuff, and he was trying to do a machine learning at the end to see how much money the movie will get, right? Like things with like if the name of the movie star is well known or not, right? Or when is going to be the premiere date and on what location, things like that, right? So that is probably like maybe you're the movie industry, you can do something with that, but really on the business cases, it's not that really useful. But it's cool that you can do that and you show that. So you can like that's a cool thing that you can do. But even like if you only think and if like all of your personal projects are about personal stuff that doesn't show business analysis, then it's not gonna be okay, right? So you can have one like that on whatever topic that you know and you have knowledge on it. Um, but after that, um, you should have something more, maybe more popular among the particular industry that you are going for, right? Let's say you're interested in healthcare, then do something about healthcare, right? Or something like that. Again, not do not have only one project, because if you have only one project, it seems weak, or it looks weak. Try to have at least 3 or 4. What realistic sources to create? I'm going right now. I'm gonna answer now. Sonny, the answer question. What realistic data set to create sample projects for life science projects if I need data sources? If like don't go too much on Kaggle, because Kaggle is being a bit like it's not bad. It's good to learn, but don't like if you show on your portfolio that everything is from Kaggle and it's gonna look a bit bad. But you can from life science, I don't really have an top of my mind now right now like where you can get it. But for example, for demographics, we went to StatCans. Well, we are here in Canada, so StatCans or any public information about the government, you can get data from there. That's super useful. Some companies, they show information, for example, for autonomous driving. We were getting data from Waymo directly. Um, it depends on exactly what is the objective that you're trying to do, right? But I would say that government entities and even sometimes companies they open their data, no, or they have open data that you can get, and people are not that like, for example, if I was a hiring manager, right, and you show me that you can go to the U.S. Census Bureau or the Stat Council here in Canada, and you can read through the old documentation, that you can do an API request and clean the data and do something with that, is much more valuable that if you just like go to Kaggle and not download the CSV and follow some structure, right? So those are original projects that you can do. Try to find more, right? Or you can also just learn how to scrape. Like it's not that hard to learn how to scrape, and try to get data from some sites, right? For example, you can get data from Amazon, for example, or for products, or you can even for sports, right? You can go, maybe there is like an API for sports that you can read. There is API for weather. So showing that you can get your data is also super important and is valuable. So I would say government data, APIs, and some company data sometimes is available. Yeah. Any other question, guys? Well, I'm gonna just tell you a little bit about the CV. So CV, um, if you have relevant experience, yeah, we want some. You need something, you can tell us through Slack or to the email. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Um, I haven't been involved in an A/B test project for a while. I did when I was a data analyst. I did ABA test for landing pages. We have different sections and we move them around. We saw which one was the best one that was clicking, that had more clicks. That was our objective. But it was just data analytics. I don't have experience on doing A/B testing with machine learning. Uh, but in general, A/B testing is always you have an objective. You want to change a variable, right? No, with Beam Data, no. Right now, I don't know if we have any A/B testing in particular projects, but you can send to the email here, and ask them directly. They will probably have more information than me. All right, so just for the CV quickly before I run out of time, because I do think that's important for everyone here, because I'm guessing that you're trying to get a job. You need to show that you have a project, right? You have experience. That's super important. That will um, pass you the first filter at least. So try to have that first project. That's what, with Cloud Data, with Beam Data helps into getting you that first project. But if you don't want to work with us, that's fine. But still try to find an opportunity somewhere. Just contact companies directly. That's the way I did it the first time, and it works. Try to find companies directly or work with small companies. For example, I have a coworker that when he started, he was just working with a bakery here, and they were just doing analysis on the products that they were selling most, right? And so all of those are valuable experience, and it will show it shows more value than just personal projects. So try to look into that because that should be on the top of your CV. Was after your name and all of that, right? After your contact information. If you have relevant experience, the other thing is the skills. Always put a skill part of your CV that is in line with the job description, because a lot of it now is like they don't have people checking, right? They just have automatic software that checks the CV with your job description. So put the skill section on it. That helps a lot. And if you don't have the relevant job experience, then you can do the projects. And the projects try to have variety. Don't put everything if you do only linear regression all the time, it's not that valuable, right? Try to do different stuff and show that end-to-end skills that you can have. That's also useful. With prompt engineering, yes, we do have projects. I'm not on that project, but another team member is working on that. They are doing a lot of prompt engineering because they are connected with ChatGPT API, and they feed data, and they tweak the temperature and all of that. They see how they can change the response, and because the main problem with LLMs is that you don't have that standardization, right? So they are working with that prompt. They are checking the prompts all the time, checking the words, checking the temperature of the API, and changing stuff so they can meet the standard that they want. Because when you are using LLM for a client, it's really dangerous that you can get a response that is not what you're expecting, right? So yeah, we do have projects on that. I haven't been working directly on it, but I've been working with my team member, and he told me all of it. So if you're interested, you can also contact here the email that we have if you are looking for prompt engineering problems. Yeah, sure. That's fine. And also, yeah, talking about LLMs, don't be afraid of using that for improving your code. I think it's super useful. In my opinion, purely in my opinion, I don't have data to back this up, but when I work with ChatGPT or Cloud or all the other ones, it's always I never tell the LLM solve this issue that I have. No, normally I try to code a little bit, or I already have code. I send that code and I tell the LLM what I'm trying to do now, and I try to do tests for it, so that it works. Never do a request to ChatGPT and just run it and without seeing what it's doing. But that way it really helps. I would say more yeah, like a companion, something that helps you to just do it quicker is great. But don't rely on it for everything, right? Because first it's gonna affect your learning. But second, also like it might not work at the end if you just don't understand what it is doing. But if you know the basics at least and you know what is the objective and you can do a test, then LLM is great. It will help you a lot. It's going to be super quick. Um, and it has made me more productive because I don't need to write everything. And I don't need to be checking on Stack Overflow if something is right or not. So yeah, syntax is also like super great for me. It helps me a lot for syntax. I don't remember the syntax all the time. It helps me. So yeah, use it. It's a tool. Use it. It can help you a lot, but don't over uh over rely on it. Any other question, guys? What else I can tell you so you can have more chance? I will say that the market is still tough on the job market. But this year is I think it's been better than last year, at least on my on the person that I know, they have been finding jobs. It always take at least 6 months or even more. Um, but they are now finding jobs. Um, I'll say that it's always the path that you normally follow is data analyst first and then data scientist, or data analyst and then data engineer. It's hard to get to data scientist if you don't have any experience with data before. Well, I have seen it. Yeah, like I have a student that like a year ago he find like even a senior level position. But his background was in statistics and math. Um, but yeah, it's like it's possible. But I would say like is I think you will find that more opportunities if you first look at data analyst or junior data scientist, which is quicker probably. Any other questions, guys? You're weak in Python? If you're weak in Python, it's hard because you probably have what do you call that? Technical interview. When you have a technical interview, you are going to do some lead code and you need to respond those. Uh, the good thing is about that normally data scientists or data analysts. What if you are looking for a data analyst position, you might not have to go through lead code with Python. They are just gonna have like some questions for SQL. Uh, but if you want to do the Python stuff, I would say you need to get the basics right, like list dictionaries, sets, how you can group by stuff, things like that, right? Data analyst, okay. Yeah, like I wouldn't be really super worried about it. Just get the SQL stuff right. Normally they don't ask too much for the data analyst on Python. I would say like keep working on it, try to improve. Um, but SQL is more important for data analyst. They might ask you like the only reason they might ask you for Python is because they need to do connection with the database and they need to do some automation and all of that is normally with Python. You can still do it with SQL, but I don't know, for some reason in the industry, it's not popular with Python. Um, but a lot of interviews, again, this is not back up with data, just with my personal experience of the students that I know are 10 to 15 the last year. They have told me like, I did it was maybe lead code, but it was just on SQL. It was just like maybe a business question about the data that they tell me and everything's on SQL because that's it. I have seen that sometimes they ask for Python, um, but it's not. Uh, I don't think you will get denied if you don't have like a perfect understanding of Python. So, what level of Python? In general, just like I, at least good on the basics. That's it. Any other question, guys? Yes, that is correct. It means basically means different things for companies. I think it also depends on what they use, right? Because some companies they don't use Python at all. It's just all SQL queries, but they never will ask you for Python. But some others they do. It is hard to say beforehand. Oh yeah, marketing team is all about the storytelling. Uh, when I was a data analyst there, like the data team was like small, right? And we didn't have a data scientist on that team. It was just data analyst and business intelligence. Um, and everything was about storytelling because I guess that in that company it was marketing was like stronger, right? Everything was about marketing. So everything that we did an analysis, we have to tell a story around it. And I would say like the mathematics behind it or the scientific rigor, it was less important, right? It was more about, okay, we have this campaign, we are trying to reach this target group. Are we doing it or not? If we are not doing it, are we getting um, like success with other targets, right? So I was always trying to find a story connected to the business case with the numbers. Um, Now that I'm working with data scientists, it becomes a lot more technical discussions, right? So it's like, okay, we are doing, I don't know, like, but we are doing XGBoost on this pricing stuff, but even if the score of XGBoost is good enough, maybe we are not following the seasonality of the data, right? So, okay, what we can do, maybe we should go to it Arima or Sarima and try to get more seasonality on it. And because, yes, it's just more technical, right? It gets more technical. You're trying to do a good job as a data scientist. Um, but at the end, I think it helps a lot the storytelling that I learned on my other job because it's always back to the business case, right? Like the client is not gonna really care about like, oh, you didn't adjust the seasonality. Like if the thing that you're doing is saving me money or making me more money, that's what they want, right? No, okay, can you please tell me more about marketing trying to connect with the business? No? Yeah, sure. So more stories about marketing team connect with the business case with numbers. So when you are on marketing, well, at least on the experience that I have two is marketing research and marketing campaigns. When you are doing marketing research, um, it's all about like, well, there's a lot of stuff that you can do in marketing research, but specifically what I did is, okay, they wanted to launch a new product, right? So they needed to know, okay, how much people will be interested in your product. So you look for uh similar products, right? So for example, let's say that you are selling I don't know, like this water bottle, right? So you need to say, okay, who are the competition about? Who are they targeting? And what is the price point, right? How much money they are trying, well, how much is the revenue that they have? And if they are public company, you can get the revenue. And if you see the marketing campaign and all of that, you can try to see what is the target, right? And you see like, okay, this is, and you get to the census government bureau information, and you get, okay, how many people are between 25 and 30 years that make middle income, right? And are they on the geographical area that I want to launch my product. Uh, and if I launch the product, where are the selling points where they can purchase that, right? So all of that is on market research, and you can do a lot of that, right? It's all about if my product is fitting the needs of the target, how much competition do you have on those? does my product make sense on the target that I'm trying to launch? If does my target can buy on that area? All of this, right? Which is again, I think it's just the four P's. I think, but I remember correctly. I think there are four P's of marketing, right? Um, and the other stuff is marketing campaigns. Marketing campaigns is just all about performance. So you see like, okay, how much money did I spend? How much is the click-through rate? How much is costing me the clicks? You have databases that you can, the only problem is that those cost money, like it's not something that you can access for free. But SEMrush, for example, is one of it. You can go to SEMrush and they will tell you some metrics about how much is the average cost per click for a campaign, and you compare your results to that. And if you really want to go deep into data science, is because everything that I told you, I think I can be explained with data analytics. But if you want to go deep into data science, you do click-through rate, and there even analysis of the colors of the ad, the size of the fonts, things like that, so you can see all these features and put them on a table and try to predict the click-through rate. Something that you can do with marketing. But it's like there's a lot more. But that's just my experience. And in marketing, yeah, don't worry. Marketing, there's like tons of things that you can do as a data analyst or data science. Even data engineer, because data engineer, you need to, for example, for SEMrush or for the bureau, you need to create APIs to read the data, put them on a table so they can do all the visualizations. So yeah. What is this one? IT company, say software company that target small business. IT company, say software company that target small business. If they are a small business, you really need to think about return of investment. If they are small companies, I will focus a lot on what is their target client are small business. Okay. Like my experience with the small business is that they don't have a lot of money to spend of crazy marketing campaigns. So I would say like you need to focus on seeing which are the products, the best products that they have, who are they selling, how can you increase that business? Maybe you can get another I will focus on trying to improve their operations and focus their communications and all of that, right? Because launching a new product like maybe not possible for them, right? And also small business have a lot of problems with just trying to get their data right. Like they don't have procedures on getting their data right. They may be selling a lot, but they don't know which product is the best one, or they don't know who are they selling with. So all of that is important. I think if you are trying to target a small business, you can do something more like, okay, know your client better, or improve your best performance, or know how to drop your products or services that are not working. All of that can be backed up by data, right? And you can show them that. But yeah, it will depend a lot on exactly what are those business, if they are B2B or B2C, in what area are they? Okay, guys, we have last 10 minutes. Any questions? Other questions? Yeah, you're welcome. Link. Let me think what else can I try to help you for this? Oh, for data scientists, even if you go to lead code, don't go too crazy into lead code. Just basic ones, like the initial ones, beginner one or intermediate are good enough. And sometimes even not, you don't need to go to intermediate. So don't go too crazy into lead code. I would say practice a little bit every week, maybe 1, 2 hours every week. But don't worry too much. At the end, you're gonna have like a question. Probably gonna be easier question than if you were a software engineer. And that question, you have some time on it. Normally you have, I don't know, 30 minutes to solve it. Um, for the question that I have seen from other students, they are not that hard. Uh, well, that will change. Obviously, that will change on the company that you're trying to apply. If you're trying to go to Google or Facebook, then it's going to be probably much harder, right? So don't spend too much time on lead code because I have seen people that are like they go and they try to do all lead code in 3 weeks and not it's not also like that because is lead code is good to help you improve your code and how you think about your code, but also the business case, well, at least in my opinion, business case is more important. Any other question, guys? Well, if you don't have any question, I think that would be it for today. Um, but just so you know, we do have the RSCP program here at WeCloud Data. It helps the students to get that first project, which can be hard when you do it alone. You can ask here this email for the email of the Zoom call for more information. And we always try to match your interests, but it's not always possible. It depends of the project that we have, right? Uh, but I think it allows you to improve your code. It allows you to improve your soft skills because you normally are working with a team and you need to communicate stuff. You sometimes need to learn GitHub, how to collaborate with other members, which is super important when you're trying to find a job. And yeah, and that's it. Thank you all for you for coming. If you have some question, you can send that to the email. And yeah, I think that's it. Have a good one. Mm.